Hey, what's up, Logos American History students? Welcome to day 40 of our COVID-19 stay-at-home e-learning. We made it to the 40th day of e-learning. It is Wednesday, May 20th, 2020, and it's a good hump day, a good middle of a good week we've been having as far as the discussions we've been having in American history and the topics we've been covering. I said it in the Zoom meeting last week. This is my favorite decade to cover in American history, the 1960s, because there's just so much going on. Especially this chapter in particular that we've been working on this week, chapter 23. We've been spending the last couple of days talking about feminism and the women's movement, and today we're going to move into other groups who, took action, stood up, and did something to make their lives and really our country, in my opinion, better. And I'm talking about non-white Americans. We've talked already a lot about African Americans and the Civil Rights Movement. And then we moved into the women's movement. And today we're going to talk about movements involving Latinos and Chicanos and Asian Americans and Native Americans and all these other Americans, right? These Americans that you have to put some kind of adjective or qualifier in front of them. We don't call white Americans, they're just Americans. But for some reason, non-white Americans have to be some other kind of Americans. It's a shame, but any student of history like you guys are understand why this is the case. But let's get into this. Let's take a look at what is on the agenda on Blackbaud. Go to our class bulletin board. We see the instructions, including the class Zoom meeting, which is tomorrow, Thursday, right, at 11 a.m. So I hope to see everybody in that Zoom meeting tomorrow. If we go into topics, we'll see we're still on the 1960s, and the reading for today, as well as the assignment for today, there's the Google Forms submission of it. Chapter 23, Section 2. So if we click on the download, what do we get? Let's see. Ethnic minorities seek equality. Ethnic minorities seek equality. A big part of this chapter talks about a guy named Cesar Chavez, a Mexican-American named Cesar Chavez, who not only fought for equal treatment of Mexican Americans, but in particular, he was a migrant worker. And so he organized a union to fight for the workers' rights, fair pay and safer working conditions, and all these things that we just take for granted weren't a thing. And so Cesar Chavez was a Mexican American who led a movement to gain those rights for farm workers. Very important American. We also see, as I said, we see Latinos, there's Cesar Chavez. We see Asian Americans who also organized in the 1960s and 70s. The Native American movement of the 60s and 70s. The American Indian movement is what it's called. The American Indian movement, again, is an interesting time and movement in our history that is very, very underreported. It seems like there's just certain times a year and certain instances where Native Americans are brought up, and they're always kind of brought up as like props instead of people. We have to remember that American Indians, Native Americans, were the first Americans. They're the original Americans, right? So they really should, in my opinion, get way more respect in our country than they do. Somehow they're considered not as American as the white Americans who they were here first. Why would they be less than us? I don't get it. But anyway, scroll on down and we get to our questions for the section, which as always we can find under the assignments tab. There it is, chapter 23, section 2. There's your 5 questions that you'll be answering. You can do it through the online submission or the Google Forms submission. And then we get the question of the day. So let's go to the question of the day and take a look at this, because I try to avoid getting too political on these videos, a lot less so than I would in class. And that's just because I don't want someone's family member watching this and getting all offended because Chris said something that was mean to a political person or idea that they feel very strongly about. I think it's silly that I should have to censor myself like that, but it is what it is. I don't want to intentionally offend anybody. But if you're offended by someone who has a political opinion by you, I think that is a problem in and of itself. And I'll say this right here. This is about as political the question of the day as I will put out on Blackbaud. The question is, what is a real American? What are some characteristics of real Americans? Are some people in this country more American than others? Do new people coming to this country from south of the border or anywhere else make us less American? And yes, I am talking to you people that want to build a wall along our southern border. I want you to answer this question. Actually, I want everyone to answer this question, right? Because it is an important question, right? What does it mean, right? But, this is a very pertinent issue for our times, right? It's not the first time that America has gone through this, but we are definitely going through a period of what's called nativism. Nativism is when people in America are hostile towards people who aren't native-born citizens of the United States, right? Who don't have family for generations going back here in America. And it's this idea that, there are some people who are more American than other people, right? And again, this has been going on throughout our history, right? You have the first people who founded America, and then when people from other countries started showing up, whether it was the Irish or Asian, China, Japan, people who were already here looked at these people and said, well, they talk different, they dress different, they eat different foods, they practice different religions. They're not real Americans, because real Americans speak English. Real Americans are this religion. Real Americans eat this kind of food. It's a thing, right? I don't agree with it. I hope you don't. But if you do, that's your opinion. Everyone's entitled to their opinion. But I want you to answer this question, right? Because what's going on in America right now is there are large numbers of people who feel that the new people who've shown up in America in the past 20, 30 years have somehow changed America for the worse and made us less American. I wonder if you feel that way. So, answer the question of the day. Work on Chapter 23, Section 2, answering those questions. And as always, if you have any concerns or questions, please let me know. Sorry for getting overly political in this video, but please, if you haven't already, don't forget to like and subscribe. Peace.